this project, the first thing you'll need to do is to create your Celluclay. Celluclay is a finely ground paper pulp. The best thing I have found to do is to do this in a very well-ventilated area. Otherwise, you're going to be breathing in a lot of dust fumes. So doing this outside or wearing one of those paper masks is probably ideal. Once you've broken up all of the clumps of Celluclay, then you can begin to add your water. I'm not real keen on measuring things. Math's just not my bag. So what I usually do is I add a little bit of water at a time, mix it up with my hands. If it still feels kind of dry, I add more water. The consistency of the clay should actually feel a lot like real clay. And you'll know you've got the right combination when, as you're working with it, all of the clay starts to come together to create a nice firm ball. You want to make sure that if you pick up the Celluclay and gently squeeze it, if water comes out, if it's too soggy, that you go ahead and you add more Celluclay to balance it out. For this project, once your clay is finished, go ahead and cut out a piece of cardboard in the shape of your wall mount. I encourage you to use cardboard because it's a lot thicker. For the head of the animal, go ahead and take a sheet of aluminum foil, crunching it inward, folding it in half, and then gently bending in the top and the bottom. This is going to create the mouth of your creature. Very simple to do. And once you've got those shapes done, the wall mount and your aluminum foil structure, you're going to attach the two together, not with glue, but with the Celluclay. The best thing to do is use small pieces of Celluclay about the size of a gumball, smush it between your fingers, and then you're going to need to overlap the Celluclay, starting on one end of the cardboard, going all the way through the middle of the mouth to the other side. If you're doing this with students and they need to take a break, perhaps class is over, the best part about Celluclay is that students don't need to wrap it up. If they leave it out to dry and then come back to work on it the following day, it's perfectly fine. Now from here, what I did was I went ahead and I covered my entire board because I wanted my wall mount to have the same texture. That's not necessary. If your students or you would prefer to have a wall mount that is smooth like the cardboard, then simply don't cover it with the Celluclay and use the Celluclay only for your creature. Now, when I was creating this video, I made a slight mistake. When I was finished with my wall mount part, what I should have done was added the Celluclay on the inside of the mouth, not the outside as you see here. The inside of the mouth is the toughest to get to, so make sure you start with the inside and then you can gently still bend the aluminum foil and structure to the shape that you want it to be. Once you've got the inside of the mouth done, go ahead and just start covering that foil with clay. Don't worry necessarily about the shape that you're going for just yet. That can be built up with both Celluclay and more of your armature. Your armature, you can use either aluminum foil or cardboard. I wouldn't recommend something like a tag board as it's very thin and the weight of the tag board might cause your structure to collapse. So as you see here, I'm just slowly working back into this. What I love about Celluclay is I love the rough, antique looking texture of it. But I know that look isn't for everybody, and it's also not necessarily for every creature that you're making. So here's something interesting. Once Celluclay dries, you can sand it with a fine grit piece of sandpaper. That'll make your surface nice and smooth. As you're working, if you want to make it smooth, simply add water to your finger and smooth it out that way. It all depends really on the look that you're going for. When working with Celluclay and your entire creation is complete, it's best to set it in front of a fan. If you set it in front of a fan, it'll dry easily overnight. Not in front of a fan in a humid climate such as lovely Tennessee. It could take up to a week and it might mold, which is no bueno. So once this bad boy is nice and dry, you can see the color changed slightly. You're ready to paint. I used an acrylic paint for mine. Tempera paint is what my kids have used. Both work great. For tempera paint, however, I would have your students or you add a coat of either spray-on varnish or Mod Podge, simply because the tempera paint can start to crack, especially if you have tempera paint. That's not the best thing ever. So when I was finished painting my creature one color, what I love the most about working with this kind of clay is doing a dry brush technique. So when my creature was finished, and it was painted one color, I then went back over it with a dry brush to really give it more of a texture. Now when it comes to creating my eyes and my nose for my creature, I wanted to have a completely different look, a smooth look to really stand out apart from the rough texture of the face and the mouth. So what I used was a polymer clay. I used a polymer clay for both the eyes and the teeth. What I could have done was I could have also used an air dry clay. Celluclay sticks to anything. In this project, you saw that it stuck to the cardboard mouth. It stuck to the aluminum foil. There's no glue required. There's no slipping and scoring. This is why I love it so. If you're going to create eyes and noses, you could do so with the Celluclay, or you could do it with an air dry clay. And as you make it out of the air dry clay, simply put the eyes and the nose where you want them to go. For me, I used polymer clay, like I said, baked it in the oven, and when it was out, I just went ahead and hot glued everything in place. This is a fun project that really could lend itself to many different kinds of creatures. When I led a workshop recently, not only did folks make things like dinosaurs, but we had rabbits and unicorns. We had a bat. I mean, the most amazing creations you can imagine, just based on this really simple technique of aluminum foil, cardboard, and Celluclay. Have fun!